Right, so we give praise, esteem, and honor to living Elohim. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach this day. Up in John chapter 5, verse 39. So search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and there they was testifying me. You not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, you receive me not. Another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one from another and receive not the honor that comes from Elohim only? Do not think that I will accuse you. The Abba, there is one that accused you, even Moses. You trust. Had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. And if you believe not his writings, how can you believe my words? Proverbs 17:2. Good, my G. Make it do what it do, man. Make it do what it do. Proverbs 17:2. Wise servant shall have rule, over a son that calls shame, and shall have part of the inheritance among the brethren. Let's come over here to this right here, man. Build this inheritance part. Something that we discussed. There's another way to tell the same story. So praise be to the Lord. Uh, Matthew 19, if you would. Praise be to the living Elohim in the name of Yahushua. Blessed be his Kadash Shabbat. Let the Lord be esteemed. Matthew 19 to 25. Shalom, man. Oh, boy. When his disciples heard it, they were exceedingly amazed, saying, who then can be saved? But Yahushua beheld them and said unto them, with men this is impossible, but with Elohim all things are possible. And answered Peter and said unto him, behold, we have forsaken all and followed you. What shall we have therefore? Yahushua said unto them, truly I say unto you, that you which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit on the throne of his esteem, you shall also sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Yasharal. Everyone that have forsaken houses or brethren or sisters or father or mother or wife or sons or lands for my name's sake shall receive 100-fold, and shall inherit everlasting life. And remember, a wise servant will rule over a son that causes shame, and he will receive inheritance among the brethren. Now he's telling, and we're looking at this here because he's telling you that, and clearly, and this probably is going to hurt a lot of women's feelings. He's talking to men. That does not mean that men or women cannot inherit, but that was not his chosen audience at the point of making the statement, because we know this because he said sisters, mother, or wife. Why is that important? Because a woman wouldn't necessarily have to abandon those things. She doesn't necessarily have to walk away from all of those things, because she's going to be following who she is married to. Of course, in this instance, prayerfully, this situation and circumstance would be that she was being presided over by a righteous man. Nevertheless, you have the example of Abigail and Nabal. See, a lot of people like to use that for a situation with abuse. I don't know why they chose to do that. Nabal was not an abusive man. He was an evil man. She did not allow his evil to dictate her service to Elohim. That is the difference. If you're married to a fool, you do not let the behavior of that man dictate how you serve Elohim, because that's his personal problem. But a woman's not going to walk away from her husband, walk away from her. That's not going to happen. It's not even going to ask a woman to do that. Now, of course, when you look at this here in this regard, you're not asking a man to walk away from his wife and leave his wife behind. But the man is the leader of the household and the head of the nation. Unfortunately, in this day and time that we live in, the And we was like we mentioned this Wednesday, the advent of a man and the care of a man is just completely disregarded. Nobody cares what you desire. Nobody cares how you feel. Nobody cares what you think. Anything that you say that goes against any accepted societal norms at this time, you will be ridiculed and ostracized. There is no respect for male hegemony, male authority, and it causes men a weaker character to how I want to word this here, be a little bit more conciliatory and accepting of things that they ought not in order to seem like they are appeasing women, even if what they are capitulating to could be detrimental to our people as a whole or individuals specifically. See, we don't really care to see that. That was something I mentioned to my people earlier today, and this is a reality. See myself, I just use myself as an example. I may say certain things. Now the difference is that I'm not going to go on Facebook and Instagram with all that stuff. It's retarded. But nevertheless, if you say certain things in a public sphere, see, this would be considered a public sphere. I don't look at YouTube as a public sphere. For me personally, I look at it as a conduit to reach those who roll with us. And that's it. I wouldn't, I'm saying this is just a recording so our people can go back and reference what we went over. Nevertheless, I may say things that people might not like in this quote unquote public sphere. I'll stand on that. I'll take whatever ridicule, disrespect, and things that could be lodged at me for what I have to say and not bat an eye about it. I just genuinely don't care. It's not going to take away from what is being said. See, a lot of people like to say things, but then you want to play the victim or feel bad or try to go into some manner of sympathy when people will begin to ridicule you and come for you and attack you because they don't agree with your stances. If you cannot deal with being, ain't the words in my head I'm really looking for. If you can't deal with being put under a microscope, you know what I'm saying, being singled out, watched, and what you have to say, keep your mouth closed. See, one thing you're dealing with the word of Allah, he see, and I was talking with a little homie about it earlier, man. I got love for everybody. You know, we family, that's all well and good. But I have a position and a role. Don't get it twisted. When it comes to that, I'm not your friend. Because I can't be your friend and operate in that office effectively because it will cause you to feel like, nigga, screw what you think and what you're doing. A lot of brothers, because they try to be everybody's friend. You can't do that because there has to be a line of demarcation between the friendship and the role that you play. And again, this is about being a wise servant. This is having the skill to know. Of course, everybody's supposed to know just because you teach the word doesn't he tell you that. We're all brethren. But nevertheless, there's still authority and rule that has to be done. When a nigga doesn't view your position that you're in with any level of respect, then they're not going to view what you have to say with respect. Meaning that not that they don't want to hear what you have to say because you're going to tell them something that they don't want to hear, but that they just don't care what you have to say, period. You know what I'm saying? Because I tell you right now, what nigga got out of pocket, I'm going to get from around you. And when I say I get from around you, you're going to remove yourself. And if you won't remove yourself voluntarily, then we will just compel you to do so. You know what I'm talking about? This is the purpose why when you're out of pocket, that this stuff is pointed out. See all that stuff where you got, especially now, quietly rebuking people and this, that's to spare people's feelings. And that is a feminine attribute. There was a video I looked at earlier this week where it's referring to that Black women do not take criticism well. Now, it's not the point of whether Black women can take criticism well, because we know that they can't. But the point of the matter is this, is that the brother stated that men are accustomed to criticism because they have to put themselves out there based off the things that men put their hand to do. So therefore, they know criticism is going to come. Women don't have to put themselves out there and take the risk and open themselves up to critique as men do. Why do I mention that? Because when you look at Yahushua and you look at the gospel of which he preached, it brought criticism from the rulers of that time, the chief priests, the scribes, the Pharisees, the Sadducees. They had criticism in regards to what he had to say. These were sons who caused shame. Don't get it twisted. And if I come over here to Matthew 23 in that regard, these were men who caused shame. He's a wise son. He's a wise servant. But they're causing shame. Remember, he said, it's not me, it's not you that it hate, it's me that it hate, because the world is evil and I bear witness to it. So they criticized him for that. They sought to find fault with everything that he did and everything that he said, because they didn't like what he was saying. This is what you see in common culture, of what they like to call now cancel culture. See, we live in a very hypocritical time. Like, I've seen a lot of people in the quote unquote manosphere talking about how every woman and a mammy came against Tory Lanez for allegedly shooting Meg Thee Stallion, and then some whore shoots a nigga her side nigga in the head, and nobody has a word to say, because they don't give a damn about your sons. They only care about your sons when it's beneficial to them, in order to garner some manner of attention for them. They do not care about you. So you cannot walk around here concerned with the cares and thoughts and machinations of people who do not care about you. As a man, you just can't do it. You have to be focused on the task and the purpose at hand. You will know if a woman genuinely cares about you. But as a whole, the modern woman does not care about a black man. The liberal woman does not care about a black man. A worldly, ungodly woman, they do not care about you. When I say that, meaning they don't care about you in juxtaposition to their desires. If what you're saying and what you're doing is going to interfere with what they want and what they desire, they do not care about you. It doesn't matter. You are irrelevant. Why do I say that? Because that is Yasharaw's behavior towards their black man. The man you know is your Redeemer, Lord, and Savior, Yahushua HaMashiach. They did not care about the Lord until what he was saying and what he was doing interfered with what they desired. Now I don't care about you. Nobody had a problem with Yahushua until he turned 30 years old and said, repent, the kingdom of Shamahim is at hand. Believe the gospel. And then he went about doing the works that his Abba commissioned him to do. And now they have a problem with this man. They never had a problem with this man until he began to exercise the authority and rule that was his from birth. Every man has authority and rule over himself. When he begins to develop as a man and he decides that he wants to take him a wife, now he has authority and rule over that household. The authority and rule, which again, this is going back to a wise servant rules over a son who causes shame. You understand? The authority and rule of a quote unquote melanated man, a quote unquote black man, a quote unquote African American man, but most importantly, a son of the house of Yasharal, his authority and hegemony and wisdom and understanding and knowledge and it is disregarded and cast away. Now, I mentioned all of that because whether we are male or female, it is to give us an understanding that this is what we do to our Elohim, that we view him in the same way that you upset with how these women view your rule, your word, your authority, your wisdom, your understanding, your guidance, your leadership. That's how you view your Elohim. You treat him in the same fashion as that woman treats you. I'm mentioning that because that takes us back to what we read in Hosea chapter 4, that I will not punish you because you're with adulterers, because you commit adultery, and those amongst our people who do not understand will fall. Because if you just look at it on the singular of this person in front of you, you're going to miss the totality, the 360 degrees, if you would, the three-dimensional framing to see things from all sides and miss the point. Again, I'm talking about the micro to get you to the macro to understand. Now, again, a carnal-minded, simple-minded, simplistic thinking individual is only going to focus on a natural woman, and they're going to miss the point that this is how, whether male or female, this is how we treat our Elohim, because we do not have a genuine respect for masculine authority. This is something that we have discussed numerous times. We do not have, I'm talking about our people. I'm not concerned with white people. I'm not concerned with Arab people. I'm not concerned with Chinese people. I'm not concerned with Caucasoid Latino people. If you are not of the house of Yahshua, it is not any of my concern. My people have a genuine contempt for masculine authority and wisdom, irregardless of whom it comes from. When I heard this young woman on this show state that when the brother asked her whose discipline did she fear, and she said her father's, and he said why? Because he was mean. When I heard her say this, it made me click, since I've been in this word. Many a woman who every time I said something to them, one of the first things they would say is, "You are mean." And I already knew that at the time, but it's clear to me, your daddy could not have been around. Talking about somebody mean. Ain't nobody here to pity pat you and pat you on your head and say, no, let me correct. You could have said it like this. Bump how I said it. You ought to listen. That's your problem. And I want you to understand this here. I have not just heard women say you could have said it. I've heard men say this as well. I've heard men say this as well. Talking about how somebody should say something. That is a cop-out for the fact that you're completely and 100% disregarding what was said to you because you want someone to placate to your feelings. Nobody gives a damn about your feelings. Nobody's sparing your feelings, and you're going to be burning in hell with your feelings. You're going to be miserable and lacking the things that you desire because you're worried about your feelings. Now, one thing I can say before we proceed, I thank the Lord because my mama, my auntie, my grandma, my granddaddy, one thing they always said when they were telling their son, they'd be like, you know what, you'll get over it. They did not care about our feelings. So when someone is expressing to you that they don't care about your feelings, when they're giving you information that is beneficial for you, it will allow you to receive information even when you don't want to hear it. And that's how we have to be with the word. Your flesh is always going to be hurt because it doesn't want to be subject to something that is going to negate the desires and wants that it wants to indulge in. And I'm mentioning this because he said a wise servant is going to have an inheritance among his brethren. So once we read this Matthew 23, we're going to go to Mark chapter 3. Y'all already know what it is, but we're going to read it anyway. You know what I'm talking about? Because of that point. I'm referencing these things to understand the point that we need to start looking at things from a spiritual point of view, seeing natural things and how they apply to the everlasting ruach by way of the word of the living Elohim for the preservation of the life of the soul of the individual who is standing under the sun. That's the point. The truth is never gentle. It can be peaceably entreated. But just like when you read in Acts chapter 2, when Peter was running that gospel down to them people, it said they were pricked in their heart. It stung them. It cut them deep in the soul. You know what I'm saying? And we have to look at that. But that also comes, do you really respect black male authority? Do you really respect black men's wisdom? Do you respect their leadership? Do you really respect it? Or do you only respect it if certain caveats are met in your mind? Because see, I'll tell you one thing about a man. If he's a man and you don't respect what he's talking about, he's going to get rid of you. So you feel like somebody's supposed to love you through that and do this, that, and the third, and they're not. Yahuwah's not even going to do it. We've talked about that numerous times. He said, oh, you don't want to come when I call for you? You don't want to answer? Oh, you want to take my words and cast them behind your back? Then I don't fool with you then. Because I'm not going to keep doing this with you. You're not going to disrespect me and feel like you could do me any kind of way based off of how you view me, because you view me with contempt. because you have a personal problem in your mind. Now, I say that here, that's we discussed this before, more so with men, about not necessarily having a desire to submit themselves to masculine authority. You really have to sit. That was one of the things that we did talk about this before as well, with police shootings, why a lot of dudes get shot. You raised by a woman. A woman has an utter contempt for masculine authority if she never wasn't under masculine authority that she admired and adored. So she teaches her son to be this way. So when he comes out into the world, he has a contempt for authority. Then you thinking because this man is exercising his authority that he's wrong. And he's not wrong. Because you don't have a right to buck authority because you don't like it. You don't have a right to do that. That is a feminine leaning. And this man has not gotten out of pocket. I told you before, even as a jit, I gave the police due respect for one simple ethos. He's a man. I'm not going to disrespect this man just because he has on a badge. He has a job to do. Now, I'm a criminal at the time, so you're doing your job. I'm not going to help you do your job. But I'm not going to disrespect you as a man on general principle because I don't want anyone to disrespect me as a man. But once, if I detected any form of disrespect, I would let him know, hey, man, you ain't got to disrespect me, bro. I'm a man just like you are. That's your first warning. You know what I'm saying? I have no problem with that. And if he continued with the disrespect, then he would most definitely be disrespected. And you have to sit back and look at that, whether you're male or female. A man is still a man. He is due respect until he shows himself not worthy of respect. See, people say, oh, respect is earned. You give people respect until they show themselves not worthy of it. That's a sense of entitlement. If respect is earned, I mean, you feel like you can just disrespect people on general principle. That's how you get killed. That's how you lose out on connections. That's how you lose money. That's how you lose a spouse. You give someone respect until they show themselves not worthy of it. It's as simple as that. And make your life easier. Nevertheless, Proverbs chapter 20, Matthew chapter 23, verse 13. But woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut up the kingdom of Shamahim against men. For you neither go in yourselves, neither suffer you them that are entering in to go in. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, for you devour widows' houses, and for pretense make long prayer, therefore you shall receive the greater damnation. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you compass sea and land to make one proselyte. And when he's made, you make him twofold more the son of hell than yourselves. And that's when you sit back and you look at that, because that's the, and this is the act of, you know what, Paul, come back over here to at this time when we were in the land, we didn't have a king, which means in that regard, you didn't have a husband, didn't have a father, if you will, a leader in the household this time. I want you to come over here to Judges chapter 21. I want you to pick it up at verse 20. Prayerfully, you can follow what I'm trying to convey on the level that I'm trying to. Judges chapter 21 and verse 20. Therefore, they commanded the sons of Benjamin, saying, go lie and wait in the vineyards. Go lie and wait in the vineyards and see, behold, if the daughters of Shiloh come out and dance in the dances. Then come you out of the vineyards and get to every man his wife of the daughters of Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin. It shall be when the father of brethren come unto us to complain, that we will say unto them, be favorable unto them for our sakes, because we reserve not to each man his wife in the war, but you did not give them unto them at this time, that you should be guilty. The sons of Benjamin did so, and took them wives according to their number, of them that danced whom they caught, and they went and returned unto their inheritance, and repaired the cities and dwelt in them. The sons of Yasharal departed thence at that time, every man to his tribe and to his family, and they went out from thence, every man to his inheritance. Again, I want you to keep that in mind because y'all should know that from the law in regards to the inheritance. Each tribe was given an inheritance, a parcel and a piece of the land. We'll revisit that in Ezekiel 47 on general principle after I read this last verse, just in case if you're not familiar or you have forgotten. In those days, there was no king in Yasharal. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. That's what I read all that other stuff mainly just for us to get to verse 25. Because there was no ruler, there was no mallet, there was none of that in the land. You did what you thought was right. When you're dealing with a woman and she is raising a son on her own, there is no man there to regulate and to moderate her thought process and her decision making. Therefore, she's going to do what is right in her own eyes. That leads to dysfunction, of course, of what you see amongst our people to this very single solitary day. And that's how someone ends up becoming twofold more a child of hell than they are. Because there was no king to rule over the scribes and the Pharisees and the priests at that time. So they did what was right in their eyes. Was no difference. There was no king amongst Yasharal at that time. They did what was right in their own eyes. So I know we don't want to look at it that way. They had priests, just like in the book of Judges, they had priests. They had priests. They had prophets. They had the law. But nevertheless, they did what was right in their own eyes. Well, guess what? Fast forward to the time of Yahusha. They had a temple. They had a high priest. You know who he was. It was Cappius. They had Levites. They had law. They had synagogues. They didn't have a king. And they all did which was right in their own eyes. Because there always has to be a man there to moderate and dictate, or that woman will get off the meat rack. This is what it is. This is what it is. That's what happens. That's why the society has promoted that, especially amongst our people, because we latched onto it the hardest. Not to say that other races of people didn't latch on, because they certainly did. The only difference between ours and theirs is they don't feel like that they don't need their men. They don't feel that way. And I'm mainly just referring to Caucasians and Euro Latinos, because Arab people don't roll that way. And Indian and Asian people, they don't roll that way unless they become Americanized. They don't roll that way. They get married very early. And they respect the male authority in their household. They don't roll that way. That's a cultural thing. They don't vibe like that. Hamites, they don't vibe like that unless they become Americanized. They don't vibe like that. They don't roll that way. What ends up happening is it keeps some manner of solidifies the structure of their families. Our people don't see that. People say, why do black men and women bash each other and this, that, there, and the third? Because you've allowed outside influences to cause you to look at each other with disdain. Now, don't get it twisted. In these modern times, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And it's pretty bad for disregard. You have men who have been lied to and deceived in regards to women. Therefore, now they're learning certain things and they like, nah, we straight. Now, a lot of women are upset. Now, this doesn't apply to most of y'all. This applies to people who are not in the word. Though some people come in the word with the same attitude. And you could come to Ezekiel 47 and about verse 18 if you would. They looking at, okay, these brothers not going for this stuff anymore. And they're upset. And it's leading a lot of women to be alone because dudes are not with it. They just refuse. Because there's a lot of things that a man can do that a man will be shamed for. And then a lot of dudes don't realize that you just go ahead and rolling with the women by going along with what they're trying to do to shame men for being men or having desires or standards or preferences. This is why people shame you for serving you. This is why you have to be willing to bear this. That's why they said that's why they said the apostles rejoice for willing to be able to suffer shame for his name. Because they were being intimidated with guilt and insults to not serve and proclaim the name of Yahushua. I'm just trying to get your mind prepared to what's coming down the pipe. Understand that. Because we live in the same world right now with Yahshua. Everybody's doing what's right in their own eyes. Let me look at this word for right. Man, we're going to get some more scripture who are willing in a moment. But right now, I just want you to consider certain things. Just let your mind wrap around certain things that we see in the world around us to gain some insight. When we gain some insight, then we can be able, and it's your sharp, things that are correct, right? And we can be able to move in a particular fashion to where we're not frustrated and get upset and lash out or behave in fashions that are not meet. You can make it verse 13 of Ezekiel 47 of, you know what? We go straight to 2021 because what I was thinking about is in chapter 48. Going on around us and not be frustrated. Like I told you, right? We could discuss female nature. There's no need to be mad with a woman. Her nature is her nature. Like dudes are mad because women desire financial security. What are you mad about that for? It's in their nature. It's what they were created for. They were created to be taken care of. The world has told her that she don't need nobody to take care of her. She can take care of herself. Not realizing when all they were doing was running game to get you into the job market so they could tax more people to separate you from your man and therefore separate you from your children. So therefore you would look for the state to give you everything that you need. This is why I've always told you when I see those memes about what people should say the educational system should teach, that's not their job. What you have done is you have subconsciously replaced your father and mother with the state and looking for the state to do what your parents would have done 70, 80 years ago. And you don't even realize that you have done that, and that they have able to pull that off by tricking you into going into the workforce and following your dreams and your passions, being a boss and a mompreneur and all this other stuff. And you got played. You got played. Because in the midst of you achieving all of that, you lost control over your sons and your daughters, and you lost your man. And therefore, I have destroyed a community by dangling a nice steak in the eyesight of a hungry dog. And you went for it. And you went for it. Didn't even take much effort. Didn't even take much effort. And we feel like that we've progressed because of that. Just because you increase financially does not mean that you have progressed as a people. But that's what people judge progression and success by, is how much wealth you can accumulate. But when your daughters are whores and your sons are miscreants and vagrants and hooligans running the streets, slaughtering each other with no regard, have you really progressed? Our people have gone from working for yourself and doing this, that, there, and the third in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Yeah, you had criminal elements to killing each other over blocks and colors, and then making records about it and boasting, and where it's spread, and we think that's the thing to do. That's the thing to do. You know what I'm saying? They put dope on the street, gave it to you, you sold it, and now every little boy wanted to be the dope man, have dreams of being a drug lord. You were manipulated. That's one of the things that bothered me the most in prison, because I already knew how dope got it. I already knew who put it there and why they put it there and for what reason they put it there. So to allow myself to sell myself into slavery was a very difficult thing to wrap my mind around, because you knew better that you should not have got caught up in a game that you knew was being run. Most of our people, you don't even know the game is being run. You've been manipulated and been duped to try to pull off an image that ain't even you. You ain't no dope boy for real. Would you have that thought process to want to move and act like a dope boy if that was not the prevailing image in media? Probably not. We the only group of people say, oh, I cut on some trap music. I feel like I'm selling dope in the car. Do you realize how ignorant of a mindset that is for a grown person to think that way? Especially when you're dealing with, I know people who doing massive amount of time for it. This nigga's dead behind what we think is just fun and games and entertainment. Because a cornball nigga who lying and a witch and a warlock is getting on a record telling lies, distorting the minds of millions in the name of Satan. You know what I'm saying? Now you say, man, you can listen whatever you want to listen to, but really sit back and understand that our mindset has to be better. Like I said, and I'm gonna read this 47:21 because I go off of 10, I go on all night. I told y'all about that when I was just looking at the concert niggas with that versus battle with Gucci Mane and Jeezy. Well, I was disgusted. Even if I wasn't in the word, I would be disgusted. This is my people. We're arguing about two niggas who say they were criminals. And niggas is going back and forth about a man who killed a man, irregardless of how that went down. This is how we view black male life. These are the things that unfortunately, the state of things that we find important enough to discuss, that we have delved down into the depths of pure and utter sewage in a cesspool of ignorance and stupidity, that we found that this was relevant enough in our lives about two niggas who was teaching you to destroy yourself and everyone around you. And everyone around you. And we uplift these niggas if these niggas are some vanguard of success and something to aspire to. Man, screw both of them niggas. At the end of the day, screw both of them niggas because they be lying. Nigga, you niggas 40 years old, man. Nigga, we do not believe you. If you did sell drugs, you surely ain't doing it now. You ain't finna kill nobody. But that 15, 16, 17-year-old boy, that nigga take that junk like that junk real. And at some point, we have to get to the point that we would say it's enough. It's enough. I'm not going to uplift this nigga. Who is this nigga? Why do we do this? Why do we allow people to trick us to believe the things that we believe that are having an extremely negative effect on our people all across the globe, all across the country? And we rejoice in it. That's why the word tell you not to rejoice in iniquity, but rejoice in the truth. And we rejoice in iniquity with glee. Nevertheless, Ezekiel 47:21. So shall you divide this land unto you according to the tribes of Yasharal. It shall come to pass that you shall divide it by lot for an inheritance unto you, and to the strangers that sojourn among you, which shall beget sons among you, and they shall be unto you as born in the country among the sons of Yasharal, and they shall have an inheritance with you among the tribes of Yasharal. And it shall come to pass that what tribe the stranger sojourn, there shall you give him his inheritance, saith Yahuwah Elohim. Now these are the names of the tribes from the north end to the coast of the way of Hethlon. As one go to Hamath, Hazanan, the border of Damascus northward to the coast Hamath, for there these are his sides, east and west, a portion for Dan. And by the border of Dan from the east side unto the west side, a portion for Asher. And by the border of Asher from the east side, even unto the west side, a portion for Naphtali. And by the border of Naphtali from the east side unto the west side, a portion for Manasseh. And by the border of Manasseh from the east side unto the west side, a portion for Ephraim. And by the border of Ephraim from the east side, even unto the west side, a portion for Reuben. And by the border of Reuben from the east side unto the west side, a portion for Yehudah. And by the border of Yehudah from the east side unto the west side shall be an offering which you shall offer. 25,000 reeds in breadth and length as one of the other parts from the east unto the west side, and the sanctuary shall be in the midst of it. This is the spot where you sit back and you look at the inheritance. Let's continue, because I told you we're going to go back and we'll look at Jacob ruling over Esau and the things that regard. And also that goes into an inheritance, because I want you to focus in on the inheritance. Everything that I've mentioned previously, before we delve into these scripts in a more ferocious fashion, is to point out the fact that that is how you lose an inheritance. When you have no king and you do what is right in your own eyes and you allow another group of people to manipulate you, that's how you lose an inheritance. That's how you miss out, and you have absolutely nothing, because you end up replacing the things that you're supposed to have with the outlook, thoughts, minds, and structure of someone outside of you, because you will deem that to be greater than what is in front of you. That's how that happens. See, we've given away our inheritance on the natural side because you see the government as your father. You look at the state, why you didn't teach me this? Well, I've never once in my 40 years of living, and I have to really say that structure between ages of 5 when I started kindergarten, that I thought, why did these people did not teach me this in school? Because I thank the Lord it clicked in my mind in high school that it was, I'm not waiting for anyone to teach me anything. Why are we waiting for people to teach us something? And this is before the internet. That's your fault. You ought to be ashamed of yourself waiting for someone outside of you who doesn't give a damn about you to teach you something. Do you know how stupid you have to be for that? We didn't talk about this many times in the past. You send your children to school to be taught by your oppressors and wonder why they come back stupid. They don't have a dog in that fight. They don't have a dog in that fight. They don't care. It's not important to them. It is not conducive to their success to properly instruct your seed. That's your job. White folks with sense don't say why they didn't teach us this in school, because they teach in their turn. We don't want to teach our turn because you're too busy trying to be entertained. You're too busy trying to be entertained. Boys want to be entertained. Men learn to pass wisdom to generations after them. We're grown men. You shouldn't have a desire to be entertained over acquiring resources to give to your offspring. And those resources are not necessarily financial, because the knowledge and wisdom and understanding that you can give can be passed down to generations long after you're gone, just the same as resources can. We don't value that. Other cultures do. You know why we don't value that? Because you're divorced from your culture and you have sought to amalgamate and assimilate with other people. These are things you have to look in the mirror and say, this is what I have done. All of us have done it. No exceptions, because you're living behind enemy lines. You're in the belly of the beast. How could you not have assimilated in some shape, form, or fashion? We've all done it. So it's not no, oh, this person think he better than me. Every one of us have done it because we were taught in a foreign culture. But it's once you begin to understand that you are in a foreign culture that you begin to divorce yourself from the things of that culture that are not conducive to your success. Simple as that. It's not difficult. It's just taking the harsh truth of, you know what? I don't let they got me. They got me. And it's all good. It's acknowledging that you've gotten God and not getting in your feelings because you got God, or somebody's pointing out the folly or the fallacy of your thought process, and now you're emotional because you didn't want to hear that. We can't keep rolling like that anymore. Ezekiel 48, man, verse 22. Moreover, from the possession of the Levites, from the possession of the city, being in the midst of that which is in the princes, between the border of Yehuda and the border of Benjamin shall be for the prince. As for the rest of the tribes from the east unto the west side, Benjamin shall have a portion. By the border of Benjamin from the east side and the west side, Simeon shall have a portion. By the border of Simeon from the east unto the west side, Issachar a portion. And by the border of Issachar from the east side unto the west side, Zebulun a portion. And by the border of Zebulun from the east side unto the west side, Gad a portion. And by the border of Gad at the south side, southward, the border shall be from Tamar unto the waters of Strife and Kadesh, into the river towards the great sea. If you recall, the rivers of Strife and Kadesh is where the water, the rock spewed out water. It's in the book of Numbers. Read it on your own time. This is the land which ye shall divide by lot unto the tribes of Yasharal for an inheritance, and these are their portion, saith Yahuwah Elohim. And then, of course, it goes into the gates. Let's read the gates anyway. It ain't gonna hurt nobody. There's New Jerusalem. Let your heart rejoice in it. And these are the goings out of the city on the north side. 4,500 meters. The gates of the city shall be after the names of the tribes of Yasharal. 3 gates northward, 1 gate Reuben, 1 gate Yehuda, 1 gate Levi. At the east side, 4,503 gates, 1 gate Joseph, 1 gate Benjamin, 1 gate Dan. At the south side, 4,500 measures and 3 gates, 1 gate Simeon, 1 gate Issachar, 1 gate Zebulun. At the west side, 4,500, and with their 3 gates, 1 gate Gad, 1 gate Asher, 1 gate Naphtali. It was round about 18,000 measures, and the name of that city from that day shall be Yahuwah is there. Let's come over here to Mark chapter 3. Because remember, a wise son is going to have an inheritance with his brethren. Of course, we know we talked a little bit about him ruling over a son. That causes shame. And we talked about that a little bit on Wednesday. You know what I'm saying? And we know that the wicked are going to bust the valley of Hinnom wide open. That is not our concern. No, we had to talk about that part because it's in the verse. Our concern is what is contained in the second half of the passage. That he will have an inheritance with his brethren. Mark chapter 3, verse 31. There came then his brethren and his mother standing without, and son unto him, calling him. And the multitude sat about him, and they said unto him, Behold, your mother and your brethren without seek for you. He answered them, saying, Who is my mother or my brethren? He looked round about on them which sat about him, and said, Behold, my mother and my brethren. For whosoever shall do the will of Elohim, the same is my brother, my sister, and mother. So, of course, we know that. We have to do the will of Elohim to be considered to be a part of the family. That also goes back to the things that we were discussing about being born again recently, getting free, and becoming a son, being born of the word, being born of the Ruach, things that we were discussing in regards of Rachel's birth, Benjamin, and all the things of that sort. Hold on, because it was something in my mind. That's what it was. Revelation 21. Praise the Lord. I just want us to think, because when you don't have a king, you do what's right to you. You're not going to do what's right according to what you're supposed to deem as yashar or correct or upright. You're not going to do that. So you're not going to pair yourself to the worship of Elohim. You're not going to do that. You're not going to join yourself to the worship of Elohim. You're not going to reverence him because you're not going to reverence what is correct to him. See, a lot of people who say, this Bible's stupid, it's all really a complete and utter despising and contempt for masculine authority. A hatred of a man. Remember, he say, he that despises not man, Elohim. Well, what? So Elohim is an Abba, that's a father, that's a man. He's a man of war, a man of judgment. Elohim of righteousness, justice, and truth, who is worthy to be esteemed forever. And they despise him because they hate men. You got men who hate men. That's the sad part. You got men who hate men. And they hate men because they worship and pedestalize women. And it's sad. It is sad. You know what I'm saying? You have a good woman, especially a good woman that's according to what this word say, not what you think or what you feel. And one thing I done told you, women never take no props from other women because they will lie to you. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to give you the truth. It's going to be clouded by their emotions and their allegiance to you because you are a female, not because you're their friend. Women will give you horrible and wretched advice for the most part in regards to the things that you do or don't do. That's no different than dealing with people who don't genuinely serve you. They're going to lie to you. They're not going to tell you the uncut, raw, unadulterated truth. They're not going to do it. They're just not going to do it because they care about your feelings and they want to boost your self-esteem, make you feel good and great about yourself. Never listen to them. They're not going to tell you the truth. And that's where we're at in the world. People don't like people who tell them the truth because we'd rather live in a fantasy land. You know what? We was listening to Boyce Watkins, man. He had brought some people on there to discuss that video, that averages best video. And it was funny because I seen the men ready to simp. And then they stopped in their tracks from simping because the two women, it was three women on the panel. One woman was being feminist. It was two women that went in and said, oh, no, he was absolutely correct and was very detailed and concise and direct on why that he was correct. And you could just see the men taking it back. Now, they were either taken aback because they were shocked that these women were being brutally honest, which I would say was a part of it, and the fact of they knew that they weren't going to have to fight in regards to, they knew that nigga was right. But a lot of times dudes want to simp, and they don't want to say the truth in the midst of multiple women because they feel like it's going to be a fight, and they would rather not fight. They would rather not fight because they know if I tell the truth, it's going to be a fight, and I don't want to fight. So when you have that, and this is no different with the word, that dudes don't want to fight. And when we're talking about fight, we're not talking about arguing and going back and forth. We're talking about standing on fundamental principles and not wavering and not moving unequivocally and unabashedly, attesting and stating that this is what is right and I will not be moved from it, irregardless of what you say. And you can do that without being distasteful or disrespectful. But I'm not moving because this is right. This is what is right. We don't care about what's right anymore because it will hurt someone's feelings. And as I said earlier, damn your feelings. Let all of us, as an adult, we're all adults here. When has sparing our feelings ever been profitable for us? When has any time anyone spared your feelings, that what they were sparing your feelings from overall ended up being beneficial for you? Because I am willing to wager with 100% accuracy that every time somebody spared your feelings, it did not work out in your best interest. See, when you're worried about people's feelings, that means you don't care about their best interest. When you genuinely care about people, you don't care about their feelings because you care about what's in their best interest. What is the most beneficial thing for you? And if it hurts your feelings, so be it. But better your feelings being hurt than you getting placed in a situation, a circumstance that could be damaging to you or very difficult for you to get out of because I was worried about your feelings. Can't do it. Again, you already know that's somebody that don't love you. They don't love, and we don't love ourselves because we don't tell ourselves the truth. And that's sad. And when I say sad, not sad like it's sad into the soul because we're injuring ourselves. And we delight to have it so. That's sad. Because how are we going to get any better? Nevertheless, Revelation 21, man, you can pick it up at verse 4. He shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. There shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying. Neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. And he that sat upon the throne said, behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, write, for these words are true faith. He said unto me, it is done. I'm the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end, and I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of water of life freely. He that overcomes shall inherit all things. I will be his Elohim. He shall be my son. Now notice that we look at those things with an inheritance in Ezekiel. That was the kingdom. He said, he that overcomes shall inherit all things. You will be a son, and you will be a wise son. You will have inheritance amongst your brethren. The whole objective is to get an inheritance. I said I was going to look at this here, and I'm going to grab something else in a moment. But I mentioned this because Darius put it up there Wednesday, so we're going to do it right now. Genesis chapter 25. No. 20. Which one's that? No, 25. I'm tripping. I'm bugging out. 25 and 27. And all that I mentioned stuff, man, it's just to provoke thought. You know what I'm saying? Like, I done sat many a day in my lifetime on the steps and COs. You know what I'm saying? Thinking about a lot of things. So I was talking to my homeboy, man, earlier, right? He was talking about niggas smoking weed. And I was telling him, like, I was weed head. Loved to partake. Thoroughly enjoyed it. But I just was a pothead, which would be equivalent to being a druggie. Because I just like to smoke. Some people smoke because they wanted to. Like I hear people say, yeah, smoke help you focus better. Nigga, you're lying. That weed ain't help you focus better, nigga. That's just what you're telling yourself. You know what I'm saying? That you want yourself to believe in order to justify to continue doing that. You know what I'm saying? I know marijuana ain't make me focus better. I focus because I want to focus. You know what I'm saying? It ain't had nothing to do with it. You want to focus, you're going to focus. Weed or no weed. You know what I'm saying? I knew smoking weed wasn't, if I was dealing with something, it wasn't going to make the issue go away. Whatever I was dealing with was still going to be there. I'm not going to smoke, so I don't have to deal with this or deal with that. That's a weak mindset. That's escapism. I'm a man. I understood that at 18, 19, 20 years old. What am I trying to escape for? That's the coward way out. Escape? Escape for what? Nigga, look that junk in the face and deal with it. Stuff passes. I thank the Lord for having that mindset because that's weak. That's the coward's way. You want to drink your pain away, drink your sorrows away, smoke your nigga. You got a problem that ain't got nothing to do with drugs and alcohol. Nigga, you're weak in the mind. It's a weak mind. You know what I'm saying? I mentioned that because we do stuff, because this is going to get to Esau in a moment. We do stuff based off of flesh to justify things in our mind of why we want to do it. You know what I'm saying? Some stuff is just simply, I like doing it. I want to do it. Because you have to sit back and look at, this is one of the purposes of why people go to therapy, to understand why it is that you do what you do. When you identify why it is that you do what you do, then you can be able to correct that. When you just constantly and consistently avoid that, you're going to continue in the same pattern. Especially if the pattern is negative. When we look at our flesh, that's what we're looking at this man here, Esau, this evil. When we look at our flesh will end up causing shame. And how will it end up causing shame? Because it will cause you to desire or do things that will have you looking stupid. Every single solitary time. None of us are exempt from that. All of us have experienced that. Think on those things. You know what I'm saying? I say, man, whether it was sitting in COs, sitting in Mayfair, you know what I'm talking about? Riding in the whip throughout the city, standing on a block, sitting in a jail cell, in a prison dormitory, it didn't make no difference. It's stuff I'm cycling in my brain. Because I'm not going to do the same thing over and over again. And I'm not going to participate in nothing that's going to keep on being negative to me. I'm just not going to do that. It makes no sense. It just makes no sense. Why would I cause myself pain on purpose? Not pain from somebody else's actions, but pain to myself. Why am I going to do that on purpose? I'm not going to keep doing things that is injurious to me on purpose. It's just things that you don't do. And of course, also other things come in of not having proper models, but that's another conversation for another time. Genesis chapter 25 and verse 27. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter of the field, and Jacob was a perfect man, dwelling in the tents. Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Jacob saw a pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he would faint. Let's look at faint real quick. Let's look at faint real quick. Something that come to mind for me, man, off that word faint. We're going to look at the word faint, but I got somewhere else to go. But I just want you to sit back and see the difference between the son who causes shame and a wise one. Because we already see Jacob perfect, man. I know some of y'all see plain, man. They don't say plain, man. They don't say perfect, man. They say plain, but that translates to Tom, which is perfect. Ayah, faint, exhausted, or weary. See, he was a weary man. Oh, I meant to read the characters to you. That's my bad. I'm moving too fast. Ayin, Yod, and Pei. So he should have known the word and worship Elohim. Because they grown men at this point. Esau, if he was faint, weary, and exhausted, he should have known the word and worshiped, or i.e. did the works of Elohim. See, I want you to pause now that I said that, right? I want you to come over here to Genesis chapter 8. I mean, not Genesis chapter 8. John chapter 8. And then from John 8 to Genesis 18. John 8 to Genesis 18. We want John 8 probably about verse 30. Not about verse 41. Maybe not even 41. Probably about 37. John 8 and 37. Is it it? 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 Yep, yep, right on the head. That's what I want. John 8 and 37. I know that you are Abraham's seed, but you seek to kill me because my word have no place in you. I speak that which I've seen with my Abba, and you do that which you've seen with your Abba. They answered and said unto him, Abraham is our Abba. Yahushua said unto him, if you were Abraham's sons, if you were Abraham's sons, you would do the works of Abraham. But now you seek to kill me, a man that have told you the truth, which I have heard of Elohim. This did not Abraham. Notice what he said. If you were Abraham's sons, you would do the works of Abraham. That's why I asked for Genesis 18 to take a trip with me, if you would, please. Oh, thank the Lord, man. You will be constantly esteemed by way of his word. See, that's what people's problem is. I told you folks, see, they hate the word. Genesis 18, man, and 16. See, they hate the word. So because they hate the word, people can't get down with the get down like they need to. Man, the word is a beautiful thing. It transforms anyone who takes hold to it. I mentioned before, man, like you sit back and look at it with women like Rebecca, women like Sarah, this, that, there, and the third. You understand? A righteous woman is a beautiful thing to have in your midst. And if you don't do nothing else, and that's if that, and I know it can be difficult if you feel like that woman isn't worthy of it. But if she is worthy of it, you're supposed to let your children see you love your wife. That sets them to stand. Like Brandon put in the tattoo, and this is weird because I don't know. I done talked to him about this before. I don't know what type of niggas he grew up around. You know what I'm saying? Now the first half I get because there are black men from a particular generation. They didn't tell their kids, sons or daughters, that they loved them. You do have old men who come from a different generation. That's just not something that they did regularly. But to hear a man tell another man, oh, I can't tell you I love you, that's gay or that's weak. Or with the meme that he shared, or I would have punched my son if he would have tried to hug me. All I'm thinking to myself is this had to be created by a woman. Let me grab that meme, look at that. That had to be created by a woman. Because I have never heard a man say anything like that in my entire life. Never. Ever. Now, like I told him in the chat, I'm like, I grew up with a whole gang of niggas. We all told each other we loved each other as teenagers. You know what I'm saying? Like, boy, I love you. Not, oh, one love, boy. Like, boy, I love you, my nigga. Boy, I love you, boy. I'm finna slide to the house. And it was funny. My homeboy Reese posted a picture with our homeboy Mario that they was together. And our homeboy Leroy was like, boy, I love y'all niggas, boy. And they were like, boy, I love you too. That was common for us, though. And that's just not no talk. Like, they really do love these niggas, man. You know what I'm saying? That junk ain't just no something just to say. They really love this nigga for real. This is my friend. This is my brother. How would I not love him? You know what I'm saying? Like, and nigga looking at it, oh, if I'm with you, that's love. Nigga, what you mean, nigga? I'll tell you that. There ain't no shame in that. I would tell D the other day, like, my man Mike Rizzo. There's a lot of people I see certain dude, man, nigga getting real hugs. And I'm like, niggas looking at that shot like that's weird. Like, what's wrong with you niggas? Like, what I don't understand. That stuff had to come from women, man. I ain't never heard no man say this stuff in my life. And I've been around niggas who run in the street. This junk say, I love you, son. I love you more, dad. Man's hugging his daddy. Two men to the side. See, that's why these boys grow up soft. Man, at that age, I'd knock my boy out if he tried to hug me like that. I ain't never heard no man say that for in my life. Never. I have never heard such a thing where a dude say he would knock his son out if he tried to hug him, or say that's why somebody saw because they daddy loved him. Most of us ain't had no daddy, so he ain't even had no opportunity to say nothing like that. But I ain't never heard no man say that for in my life. If any of y'all ever heard a man say that in your life, you could definitely share. I've never heard that before. I've never heard such a thing. So I'm like, whoever created that, a woman had to make that. Because they had to just believe that's how men operate. I have never seen that in my life. I've been incarcerated with niggas who tell each other that they love. You know what I'm saying? I've been around stone cold killers who tell niggas that they love. Nigga, if I love you, I love you. What you mean? That's your sad. You understand? Especially when you look in the context of the word, when he said, this is how you gonna know that you my disciples, because you love one another. So then I begin to ask myself, where is the construct of men displaying the fact that they love one another is gay or taboo? Where did that come from? Where did that come from? Because I'm a man, I've been around men, I've never heard a man say that. Of all the men who I knew who had sons, I've never seen them do that. But my homeboy Reese, who I just mentioned, that boy got more kids than I can count. And boy, he hang with all his sons and hug all his sons. This boy have been up the road, ran through the street and all that. And I'm like, what you niggas are weirdos. You know what I'm saying? If a nigga's on there, that nigga's a weirdo. There's something up with that nigga, man. That's not right in the brain. That's got to be some pent up feelings and resentment for your daddy or son, or some underlying latent homosexual tendencies. Because I just don't get it, you know. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Genesis 18:16. And the men rose up from thence and looked toward Sodom. Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. Yahuwah said, shall I hide from Abraham the thing which I shall do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him that he will command his sons and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of Yahuwah to do justice and judgment, that Yahuwah may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken. Remember, I'm talking about Arah. He was faint, weary, and exhausted. He should have known the words of Elohim and worshipped him. He didn't do that. We know Esau didn't do that. Because it said Abraham taught his household. I just want you to come over here to Genesis 26. Make that 25, excuse me. I want you to come to 25 and 1, if you would. Genesis 25 and 1, then we'll slide to 26. I needed to read 25 first. Then again, Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah. She bare him Zimran, Jokshan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan begat Sheba, Dedan, and the sons of Dedan were Asherim, Leshem, and Lamumim. The sons of Midian, the Ephah, Epher, Hanok, Abadiah, Eldah, and these were the sons of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac. But you already know that. It's like the father gave all that he had to Yahusha. Yeah, I got other sons. Those Torah sons will be representative of the Malachim. Yeah, I got other sons, but everything I got go to Isaac. Let me show you that. Pause. Hebrews 1. You can set you a hold on Genesis 26. But Hebrews 1 real quick, like if you would, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, if you would. I grab that to my head. What do I want? Where is it at? Hebrews 1 and 4. That's what it is. Being made so much better than the Malachim as he have an inheritance, as he hath by an inheritance obtained a more excellent name than they. You already know that from the law. And Isaac saw your seed be called. So Isaac had already obtained by inheritance a more excellent name than all of the sons of Keturah, along with Ishmael. You can look at them in the aspect of them being representative of the Malachim. Yeah, we brethren, but I got a greater inheritance than y'all. So, for unto which of the Malachim said he at any time, you are my son, this day have I begotten you, and again I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son. Y'all know from Genesis 21 that that's his only, say, offer your only son. I want you to see that parallel with Isaac, because this is going to extend to Jacob and Esau in a moment, of a wise son who rules over a son who causes shame and have an inheritance amongst the brethren. Let's continue. And again, when he bring the first begotten into the world, he say, let all the Malachim of Elohim worship him. Now, why he say, well, guess what? What they did. See, come over here to Genesis again, man. I thank the Lord. Take a look at Sunday Genesis. Right? Think of Genesis 21. I desire 21 and 9. 21 and 9. And it says, and Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, which he had born unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be an heir with my son, even with Isaac. The thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of the son. And this said in 4:4. But what the purpose of that was, Hagar, the Egyptian, or Ishmael, is mocking, because Ishmael did not want to bow down and give reverence to the inheritor, to the heir. Remember what we discussed many, many moons ago. It wasn't that long ago, but it was long enough. What Satan's issue was, if you would. Let me ask y'all, who can tell me in the chat, who remembers what was Satan's issue of why he got kicked out of heaven? What was his issue? And for bonus points, who can tell me the prevailing thought of what his issue was? Because there's a prevailing thought amongst a lot of people who deal with the word, what Satan's issue was, what got him kicked out. But if some of you recall, we went over what Satan's issue really was. Who recalls? I don't know, everybody don't rush now. We'll jump up there, everybody at one time. We'll jump up there at one time, y'all. Anybody, what was Satan's issue that got him put out? And yeah, he did rebel, but why did he rebel? He did rebel. I'm just trying to see if y'all remember, because we did discuss that. Just trying to see if y'all remember. Just trying to see if y'all remember. That is correct, Stanley. That is correct. He did not want to acknowledge Yahusha as the son of the living Elohim. He didn't want to do it. He did not want to do it. And like he's mentioned, right? He kept saying, if you be the Son of God, see, come over here and look at it with me. Come over here and look. Come over here and look at it. That's right, Dieter. That's right. He was not chosen to be the son, and he didn't want to be down with the program. And that and part of that with Tavon and Sean, which I'll put on there as a part of it, what Stanley and Deidre got on there is the crux of it. And what y'all mentioning is the offspring of the crux. Because that's why Ishmael was mocking. See, let's look at mocking real quick, that word for mocking. No, I don't want any virus or threat protection. Yeah, everybody answers are correct. Just Tavon and Sean, y'all answers are the offspring, the byproduct of the first two. You look at mocking here, right? You have shock, which is to make sport of, to toy with, to laugh, to mock, or to play. So it's very very disrespectful. Let's look at some of the things that Satan said to the Lord when he tempted him. Remember to always remember this here, y'all. When the unclean spirits saw him and they would speak, they would always say, we know who you are. You are Yahushua, the son of Elohim, or have you come to torment us before the time? They stated they already knew who he was. So if they already knew who he was, they already knew what it was. And they didn't want to roll with it. Matthew 4. Matthew chapter 4. Let's look at some of the how he speaks to him. Look at verse 3. When the tempter came to him, he said, if you be the son of Elohim, command that these stones be made bread. Drop to verse 6 and look how he speaks to him again. And he saith unto him, if you be the son of Elohim, cast yourself down, for it is written, he shall give his angels charge concerning you. And in their hands they shall bear you up, lest at any time you should dash your foot against a stone. Notice that he kept asking him, if you be. Come over here to Luke chapter 4. And again, he's ruling over. This is a son who causes shame. And he going to rule over him so he can have an inheritance with his brethren. I'm just showing y'all how Ishmael is representative of Satan mocking or playing with Yahusha. Because Yahusha is Isaac. Remember, all Yasharal is not a Yasharal. The seed of the promise is counted for the seed. Because in Isaac your seed shall be called. We'll read that too on general principle. Come over here to Luke chapter 4 with me. We'll read that Romans 8 on general principle. It ain't gonna hurt nobody. Come over here to Luke chapter 4. Look at what this whole nigga say again. He say the same thing. Luke 4 and 3. And the devil say unto him, if you be the son of Elohim, command these stones be made bread. For those of you who don't know, he was asking for him to bring the new covenant into effect. Because he told you, we talked about that last week. He said the bread that I give is for the life of the world. He said, go ahead and change it up. If you be the son of Elohim, turn these stones into bread. For what? I don't have to do that. Most of us in this time period, we would have done that because you would have felt that was a challenge to your power. You would have failed because you weakened the mind, not realizing somebody trying to play you. Come on here to verse 9. He says, it will say the same thing again. He brought him to Jerusalem, set him on the pinnacle of the temple, and said unto him, if you be the son of Elohim, cast yourself down. You know what I'm talking about? Now, I want to try to recall one of the spots with the evil spirits, where we could see that. Because the evil spirits acknowledged who he was. Come over here to Matthew, I want to say 9. Matthew 9. I think it is Matthew chapter 9. Also, before I mention this here, the prevailing thought process is that the reason why Satan bucked is because he didn't want to serve Adam. But they were thinking he didn't want to serve the first Adam when he didn't want to serve the second. Because as Tavon stated he wanted to be worshipped like Allah. He wanted to be Yahuwah. And like I said, he despised the power of Yahusha because he wanted that birthright. Which is what we're going to see with Esau in a moment, because Esau rejected it. Now, Satan didn't reject it because it was never his, but he could have reigned with Yahusha. He chose not to. Esau could have probably ruled with Jacob. He chose not to. We will see that in a moment. Here we go. Matthew chapter 9, verse 28. Excuse me, chapter 8. My bad. Chapter 8, verse 28. Matthew chapter 8, verse 28. We are good. And Genesis 21, we're going to go back and look at Genesis 26. Matthew chapter 8, verse 28. And when he come to the other side into the country of the Gergesenes, there met him two possessed with devils coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, what have we to do with you, Yahusha, you son of Elohim? Are you come hither to torment us before the time? Let me read that to you again in case you missed what these two unclean spirits had to say. And when they cried, behold, they cried out, saying, what have we to do with you, Yahusha, you son of Elohim? Are you come hither to torment us before the time? Now, we read already on Wednesday. Of course, most of you are already familiar that in Matthew 25, he say, cast them into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. But these devils understood, they cried out and knew exactly who he was. They knew exactly who he was. And they even asked, are you coming to torment us before the time? They knew what it was. They knew who he was. Notice that Satan always asked, if you be. The disrespect. You know what I'm saying? The disrespect. And this is as a note that many people overlook. I'm looking at something to say. Many people overlook that quite regularly, that Satan asked him that. Come over here to Mark chapter 3 as well. A lot of people overlook that Satan always kept saying, if you be, if you be, if you be. Because see, Satan had a vested interest that Yahusha failed. Because more than likely in his mind, this is all conjuncture of what I'm saying. Mark 3 and 7. That he might have felt like he could have ascended into that position if this man failed. Which of course we know that Yahusha was not going to fail. And the word was going to come to pass. Mark chapter 3, verse 7. But Yahusha withdrew himself with his disciples to the sea, and with a great multitude from Galilee followed him, and from Yehuda, and from Jerusalem, and from Idumea, from beyond Jordan, and about Tyre and Zidon, a great multitude, which they had heard what great things he did, came unto him. And he spake to his disciples that a small ship should wait on him because of the multitude, lest they should throng him. For he had healed many, and so much that they pressed upon him for to touch him, as many had plagues. And unclean spirits, when they saw him, fell down before him and cried, saying, you are the son of Elohim. Let's read that verse 11 one more time. And unclean spirits, when they saw him, fell down before him. Now look how these people tell you, don't nobody's supposed to worship the Lord, and unclean spirits are worshiping this man. Let me read that to you again. Unclean spirits, when they saw him, fell down before him and cried, saying, yeah, we finna get it, my man, and I appreciate you too. Okay? You are the son of Elohim. They confessed openly. And he straightly charged them that they should not make him known. Then he turned around and tell them, don't tell nobody that. That's rough right there, man. Mark 5 and 1, man. See, they don't like that. They don't like that. They don't like it. Now you can see what Satan's problem was. Satan is Ishmael. He's Ishmael. In that instance of mocking the son of Elohim. After this Mark 5, we're going to read one more spot in Luke chapter 4. Mark 5 and 1, man. I think that's all we got. But that's enough. And they came over into the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no man can bind him, no, not with chains, because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains. The chains had been plucked asunder by him, the fetters broken in pieces, neither could any man tame him. Always night and day he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones. But he saw Yahushua. But when he saw Yahushua afar off, he ran and worshipped him. And he cried with a loud voice, saying, "What have I to do with you, Yahushua, you son of the Most High Elohim? I adore you." He say, "Swear by Elohim that you torment me not." For he said unto him, "Come out of the man, you unclean ruach." And he asked him, "What is your name?" And he answered, saying, "My name is Legion, for we are many." What if all them unclean spirits in them say, "Come on, boy, swear to me by your father, boy, you not going to torment me, man." But Satan couldn't give him that due respect with his rat bastard punk self. Come over here to Luke chapter 4, man. Luke chapter 4, man. Luke 4 and 38 will be the done deal, because it's going to make it plain. And he arose out of the synagogue and entered into Simon's house. Simon's wife's mother was taken with a great fever, and they besought him for her. He stood over her and rebuked the fever, and it left her, and immediately she arose and served unto them. Now when the sun was setting, and all they that had any sick with diverse diseases brought them unto him, and he laid his hands every one of them and healed them. This also goes back to what we were talking about those who are oppressed of the devil. When we were talking about the oppression in Ezekiel 18 and Ecclesiastes 4, of which I desire to go into more in depthly. Shalom, man, you good, my G. To go into more in depthly. So you who are willing, we will do that. And the devils also came out of many, crying out, "You are the Mashiach, the son of Elohim." Listen what he said. And he, rebuking them, suffered them not to speak, for they knew that he was a Mashiach. Come on, man. Now look at this here, Brian. The evil spirit shut their mouth when Yahushua told them, "Boy, be quiet, boy, correct, shut your mouth." Because it said they knew. Let's read it again. And the devils also came out of many, crying out, saying, "You are Mashiach, the son of Elohim." And he, rebuking them, suffered them not to speak, for they knew that he was Mashiach. They knew he was the son of God. So when you turn around and you look at it, Satan's issue was never that he just was rebelling just to rebel. Satan's issue was never he didn't want to serve man. Satan's issue is that he was mocking. He was Ishmael. He wanted to be the son of the promise, and he was not. So just like he said, cast that bondwoman out in her seed, that's why he was cast out of heaven. Let's learn how to look at it for your reading pleasures. Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12, verse 7. Praise Elohim, man. Praise Elohim. Praise the Lord. It's still going to get us to Esau, though, whether we realize it or not. Revelation 12 and 7, there was war in Shamahim. Michael and his angels fought against the serpent, and the serpent fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. Just like it in no place found any more for Ishmael. Boy, you got to go. You got to go, boy. You can't live here no more, because you're not going to inherit. Remember what we read in Matthew 25, cast them into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. You're not inheriting, sir. You're not inheriting here. You got to go. And the great serpent was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Hashatan. I feel like I skipped a verse. Which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. You got to go. You got to go. Back to Genesis 26. You got to go. 26:1. So we want to look at that. And you can see that Isaac is a wise son who ruled over a son who caused shame, being Ishmael. See, you see, a lot of us, we just get caught up on who's the Ishmaelites, and they don't want us to know we Israel. Man, bump all that junk, nigga. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, nigga, that junk ain't hit nothing. That junk ain't hit nothing. Junk is basura. Because what we're trying to understand from what we're looking at is this. Is that when you are carnal or a son who causes shame, you do not get to receive an inheritance. That is the point. Yes, we could look at the comparison of Ishmael to and Hashatan, but the comparison with Ishmael and Hashatan is that Ishmael was a mocker. He was a scoffer. Hashatan is a mocker and a scoffer. They do not get to inherit. Why do they not get to inherit? Because they don't do justice and judgment and keep the way of Yahuwah. Therefore, they're not a wise servant. As we just read earlier, Genesis 18, it said Abraham would teach his household justice and judgment. Now, at this point, Ishmael was in his household. He was there. Don't get that mistaken. Sarah instructs Abraham to get rid of Ishmael 3 chapters later. So Abraham already had the way of Yahuwah to teach his household. Ishmael was there and he was mocking. Pay attention. That's his heart. But see, we don't want to talk about that because we want to look at this and look at that and not realizing a lot of these characters we were reading about where the word was present and they rejected it. He brought shame on his own self. So therefore, Isaac must rule over him. Now let's come over here to Genesis 26. And again, this is just the nuance for the point. There was famine in the land besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. Isaac went unto Amalek, the king of the Philistines, unto Gerar, who appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Mizraim, dwell in the land which I shall tell you. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with you and will bless you, for under you and under your seed will I give all these countries. I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham your father. You should remember that with those countries, with all those borders that we read in Ezekiel 47. See, praise be to Elohim in the name of Yahweh. So everything we look at that is going to weave itself together for a clear picture. But you got to make sure you're paying attention. Because if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss the subtle points of how all these things weave in together to give you a glimpse of the will of Elohim to not be as foolish as Ishmael and Esau. See, we want to look at who's Esau now. I don't give a damn who Esau and Ishmael is now. It's irrelevant to the point. It is irrelevant to the point because we're looking at the mindset of Esau and Ishmael and what got them excluded. Because remember, all things are written aforetime were written for our learning so that we could be admonished and encouraged and consoled by the scripture. See, the thing is, what we're looking at is we just want the consolation. But we don't want the admonishment and the exhortation to not make the mistakes of the people before you when you have an opportunity to latch on to the inheritance and birthright that Elohim has bestowed upon all those that love him. You understand? That's what it's about. See, and what I mentioned this earlier, right? Offspring should always see their father loving their mother. Why did I mention that? Because the world was supposed to see Yahuwah loving us because we served and honored him with delight so that they could know that, boy, they got a great husband. Look at the Elohim, how he loves them. And that they would want to come and be a part of that type of love. We refuse to do so, which is seriously negates our ability to do so in our own households to this present day to manifest that manner of love to our offspring. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't talking about just showing love to your woman on some old sappy romantic stuff. I'm talking about just common, regular occurrence. I heard a brother say this the other day, and he was telling brothers not to get married. He was telling you can't bring back the family structure. But case in point, this is case in point why he said that, unless the society and culture at large changes. See, that's what a lot of people they might have hear him say that part, but not pay attention to the other part. Because the type of thing that I'm discussing about just normally and regularly just loving your wife in the sight of your children can only occur with the cultural mental shift and the mindset of the women and men in the land in order to bring that to pass. Even more so in the women, because it's not that men don't desire to do certain things of that ilk. It's that unfortunately the mass majority of women are not worthy of that type of conduct and affection at all. You're not worthy of it because you are a woman. You're worthy of it because you're a woman who is worthy of being treated in such a fashion. And most of our women, sadly, at this point in time, do not have the mental and emotional capacity to be able to receive that type of love at this time. Because all they're going to do is exploit, denigrate, and disrespect a man who do so. Because they will say that that's what they desire until they get it. Then they will look at him as being weak because we didn't have that model. You didn't see your daddy love your mama like that to understand that that is just normal. You didn't see your mother delighting to serve your father. You know what I'm saying? Seeking to keep him happy and pleased. You didn't watch that. So that's not normal to you. So when somebody mentions things that are actually normal, standard ways of actually living, it seems to be utterly contemptible. So you don't have a baseline to even know how to do it, much less have a desire for it, but there's something deep down in the pit of your soul that longs for it. And you can't explain to yourself or to your peers why you long for it. Can't even explain it. And what is that longing for? Because Yahuwah created you to be a helpmeet, a wife, and a mother to a man. That's the purpose of what you were created for. And that part of your nature longs and desires for it. But the part of your nature that will not cause you to submit to a level of authority, to rebel, because there was no administration from a masculine individual in your household, will cause you to create a fallacy of what a wife and a mother is in your own mind and to disregard your own internal programming to go after what is right in your own eyes. I.e., when you don't have an Elohim and you run around here doing what you want to do, the desires of your flesh. Because he told you, watch and pray. For the Ruach is willing, but the flesh is weak. So that desire to serve Elohim that's in the deep pits of your nephash, you'll disregard it to fulfill the lust of your flesh. And therefore, it negates you to have the ability to love Elohim in the fashion that you're supposed to. And you end up what? Dying alone. That's the thing. And him telling that lady in that video, she gonna die alone, but a lot of us are gonna die alone. Because the Ruach of truth will not come in the card with you, and fellowship with you, and you're gonna die alone. You're gonna die alone. And that's a conversation that us in the word just sit back and look. She sure is gonna die alone. You are her. Because you have unrealistic expectations and a standard for certain things that you ain't willing to meet. That you don't have a desire to meet. And your husband is not, you ain't gonna get no husband. He's not gonna marry you. And you gonna die alone. So while we look at that funny looking woman that she may be and laugh at her because, oh, he told her the truth and this, that, and the third, that woman is you. You that woman. Because you put unrealistic standards on what I seen somebody share something that was sad too. Of a pastor trying to explain to some grown person why they were molested at 10 years old. Why did God let that happen? And I told you once, and I tell you again, well, this man never said he would come down from heaven and stop anyone from doing anything at any time. If Abel, who was accepted by Elohim, was murdered and he didn't intervene and stop that, I don't know why anybody think he's going to do that. Where in the text do you see this man intervening, stopping anyone from doing anything to anyone? He's never done that. That's things that we have created in our own mind of a standard of what we want a man to be, of whom he is not. And they die alone. Because if you don't got the Ruach HaKodesh, that means you an unmarried woman. Which means you're going to die alone. You ain't got no husband. You ain't got no husband. Which means you have no sense of direction or guidance or leadership or moderation or nothing in your life. And you're going to die alone. Now, we don't want to talk about that while we sitting there looking at that lady, laughing about this, that, then the third, and talking about how these women acting, and we that woman. Genesis chapter 26. Verse 4. And I will make your seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto your seed all these countries, and in your seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. So he's doing, but Abraham taught Isaac. So that means that Isaac knew it too. That means Isaac knew it too. And he held fast to it. Come over here to Isaiah 41, because remember, Esau was weary. See, Esau was supposed to know the word of Elohim and worship Elohim or do the works of Elohim, like his father Abraham did the works of Elohim and told the truth, spoke of the faith. Esau chose not to do so. Esau chose not to do so. And why did he chose not to do so? Because he did not believe the word. He did not rely on the word to give him strength when he was weary. Isaiah 41. I feel like I'm in the wrong verse chapter, and I was. It's Isaiah 40. My apologies. 40 and 26, if you would. 40 and 26, if you would. Lift up your eyes on high and behold who have created these things that bring out their host by number. He called them all by names by the greatness of his might, for that he is strong in power, not one fail. Why say you, O Jacob, speak, O Yasharal, my way is hid from Yahuwah, my judgment is passed over from my Elohim. Have you not known, have you not heard that the everlasting Elohim, Yahuwah, the creators of the end of the earth, faint not, neither is weary. There's no searching of his understanding. That's what Esau did. Remember, if Yahuwah don't faint nor get weary. Listen what he tell you. He give power to the faint. To them that have no might, he increase strength. Even the youth shall faint and be weary. The young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait upon Yahuwah shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. See, that's what Esau chose not to do. He chose not to wait upon Yahuwah. He chose not for Yahuwah to give him power so that he would not faint. And therefore, he leaned on his flesh. And his flesh caused him to renounce his birthright. Back to Genesis chapter 25. That's how he's an unwise son, or a son who caused shame. And this is why Jacob was able to rule over him. See, all these people like, Jacob was deceitful. And then just sit your stupid behind down somewhere, you ignorant bastard. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about because you don't take the time to actually have insight and understand the word to see that that was an unbelieving man. And he behaved himself like carnal, unbelieving people behave. And then because he seen that he was unbelieving and lost something, now he wants to play the victim and wants to execute wrath upon the person who did absolutely nothing to him because he desired to fulfill what was pleasing to him for in the moment, therefore sacrificing the greater long term. And all that shows you to have the ability to just be able to sustain. A lot of people have missed out seeking instant gratification. Seeking instant gratification. A perfect man can't be deceitful. That's what the witness of Jacob is in the text. It's a perfect man. But niggas be quick. I seen another stupid nigga today talking about Solomon in the text eating vagina. You can't listen to read what Solomon said. Solomon went off. Shut up, whore. That was a woman who said it, you whore. I can't believe niggas still talking about 2020 Songs of Solomon. They think this man talking about eating vagina. You know what type of sick nigga you got to be to read the text and the first thing come to your mind is somebody eating coochie? What's something wrong with you, boy? Now, we ain't did it in a long time, but I thank the Lord. Some of y'all remember, we went through all through Songs of Solomon. Man ain't talking about eating no vagina. You sick. Man, that man was a prophet. And you think Yahuwah give him a word talking about licking a clitoris and a vulva? Something wrong with you, boy. Something's wrong with you. And then the top, don't look at Solomon. Solomon went off. Maggot hoe. Just a maggot hoe. You know what I'm talking about? This is stuff that people be going on, man. Have people looking at the word crazy because they're ignorant, stupid nigga don't know what they talking about. And we think that junk cool. We all Israel. Man, screw them niggas. Since I said that, I didn't get Romans 8. Thank the Lord. Man, nigga better go ahead on with that junk. Man, a lot of these people is dumb out here. Man, they don't know what they're talking about. You have to be very discriminatory. It's Romans 9. My apologies. Romans 9 and 6. A lot of people don't know what they're talking about. And they end up blaspheming and don't even know it. A lot of people be blaspheming and don't even know it. Like, really, man, dudes really believe Song of Solomon is about sex and putting his mouth on a vagina. Why would you think the greatest king to ever live before Yahushua graced us with his presence would be around here trying to lap up the mucus that comes out of a woman's vagina? Because that's all that vaginal lubrication is. It's just some nice, good, old-fashioned mucus, for lack of a better term. Why would you think that he would do that? Why would you think that he was that big of a simp that he would do that? I know people think he was, well, he set up idol worship, the worship for his wives. The man already told you that was going to happen if you did that. Especially with him being old, you're easily influenced to do things to please him because you lack a concern. That's what happens because a man's going to seek to please his wife. So he's going to do things that he ought not. Book tell you that even outlandish women call Solomon to sin, and they were just strange women. You can't mess with them strange hoes, man. Well, these niggas just shoot niggas all around here just on the house, man. What's wrong with these niggas, man? Romans 9 and 6. Not as though the word of Elohim have taken none effect, but they are not all Yasharal, which are of Yasharal. Neither because are they the seed of Abraham, are they all sons, but in Isaac shall their seed be called. We read about all Abraham's sons. Well, you not the seed, boy, not seeds of many, but seeds of one. That seed being Mashiach. Well, if you ain't born of the word, boy, you ain't no son, boy. You think you a son? That's why Peter told you better be born an incorruptible seed and not corruptible. But that just don't mean that because you know you're Israelite. Boy, you ain't born of the word. Boy, you ain't no Israelite. You just a nigga. At the end of the day, you just a nigga. If you ain't born of the word, he don't acknowledge you in heaven. You got dudes out here who really think angels rejoice because you find out you're an Israelite. Slap yourself. Just slap yourself. You're devoid of any reasonable amount of intelligence. Let me even say intelligence. Let me rephrase that. Of any level of spiritual acuity. You are devoid of it. You don't have it. You're bereft, without, lacking, destitute, if you will. Let's continue. That is, they which are the sons of the flesh, these are not the sons of Elohim, but the sons of the promise accounted for the seed. For this is the word of promise, at this time will I come, and Sarah shall have a son. And not only this, but when Rebekah also conceived by one, even by our father Isaac, for the sons being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, the purpose of Elohim according to the election might stand, not of works, but of him that called. It is said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. Let's return to Genesis chapter 25 and hungry little Esau. But Esau was faint. He didn't rely on Yahuwah. We are in Genesis chapter 25, verse 30. Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray you, with the same bread pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name Edom. He said with us, feed me. I'm a little faint, man. Could you please just shoot it to me, man? I'm hungry. See, this is another point, case in point. Some of you should remember. Yahusha doing the opposite of Esau because he was hungered and weary. And when he was offered things, being faint and weary, he rejected those things to hold on to his birthright because when he was faint, he knew the words of Elohim and therefore sought to do those works and worship him. He did the opposite of Esau. See, Esau despised his birthright from the jump. Remember, Abraham taught Isaac. Isaac taught Jacob and Esau the word. They knew who Yahuwah was. They knew his word. Do not think that they did not. They knew it. You don't think that Isaac didn't tell them about, hey man, Yahuwah promised me this, that. You don't think he told them that? You don't think that they didn't know that? Listen to what this whole nigga finna say. Jacob said, sell me this day your birthright. Esau said, behold, I'm at the point to die. What profit shall this birthright do to me? Birthright. Remember this here, right? Bakora, birthright. Right of the firstborn. Bat, Kaf, U, Raj, Hey. So when we sit back and look at it, you can behold the son of the highest was subdued and secured life. This is the right of the firstborn. Say, I don't want the right of the firstborn. I'm at the point to die. What profit am I going to get? What profit am I going to get? Jacob said, swear to me this day, and he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and a pottage of lentils, and he did eat and rose up and went his way. Esau despised the right of the firstborn, despised his bazar. He held it in contempt and with disdain. He hated it. He did not want to inherit. Because what is the right of the firstborn? For him to despise his birthright and to Jacob for ask for it, they already knew that the right was the inheritance that was promised to Isaac. Why else? You don't think that they knew this? He despised the promise of Elohim. That's what people missing when they looking at what Esau did. He did not believe and held in contempt the promise of Elohim. He esteemed it a light thing. He did not value it. So therefore, what does that mean? Nigga, I don't think that's what you see in the world. You got let me say millions and millions and millions of people who despise the promise of Elohim. And a great large majority of them profess that Yahuwah is their Elohim. And they despise his promises. Come over here to 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 1. Give thanks to Elohim in the name of Yahushua, man. Let his name be esteemed. Let the name of Yahushua be lifted up, that Abba and Shamahim may be esteemed every single solitary time that the gospel is preached. Let those souls of the wicked be put to shame by the preaching of our Savior, that they may know that there is a day of restitution and a Redeemer who is soon to come to grab his offspring into esteem and to put them at rest and to torment the wicked day and night. Don't be scared to tell them. Let that be known. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 1. This second epistle, beloved, I write now unto you, and both which I stir you up by your minds by way of pure remembrance, that you may be mindful, of the words which were spoken before by the Kadash prophets and of the commandment of us, the apostles of the Lord and Savior, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lust, and saying, where's the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. See, that's a contempt thing. Let's look at one more thing with Esau, old wicked, no good, stinking, funky behind. That's why you read about Esau, if y'all recall, when we were going through Ezekiel 35, about him blaspheming the tabernacle of Shamahim, and why you see the beast coming through, wanting to be Elohim and trying to mimic Mashiach, to fulfill the thing that Satan could not do. So because Elohim is Elohim and a great Elohim is he allowing Satan through the beast to be able to have the one thing that Satan desired, and that was to be Yahusha. He said, you know what? I'll let you be Elohim. I even let your funky behind have a son. And I'll let him come out there and see if these people going to hold fast to my word because they see these miracles. But they supposed to remember what I told them to do and to hold fast to what I told them to do to prove they love me. So I will allow your funky behind to do this, that I may see who loves me and who doesn't. And those who don't, I will slaughter. And those who do, I will lift up and to esteem them, give them a crown of life, and set them in my pasture, that they may be at rest, that they may serve me and behold my face and praise me and honor me forever. And they will do it with joy and delight. See, nobody don't want to have that conversation and talk about that because it's not something that'll get the people going. It's not something that's gonna get the people going. I told you, man, niggas like to use gimmicks, man. You deal with people, man, who just let's just talk about Elohim and the promises of Elohim and the gifts of Elohim. And what can we do to make sure that we can please and serve him and get closer to him? Dudes, don't you a Christian? Man, you's a Christian light and all this old type of stuff. That's shame and insults and guilt to bring you over to what they own. That's all that is. You are so devoid of a reasonable argument and any manner of a measurable amount of intelligence that is what you have to do instead of just being able to plainly state your side. Just because of my viewpoint or your viewpoint or what, I don't even say viewpoint, what you choose to focus on and what I choose to focus on does not mean that I'm going to come and disrespect you and insult you. I'm not going to do that. But if you insult me, there is a strong likelihood that I may insult you back. And I'm a disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to verbiage, I'm a disrespectful individual. And I will go out of my way to make sure that I verbally assault you to the point that I can disrespect you at the highest level of disrespect that I can give you without cursing you or calling you out of your name. That's when I feel like I just wanted this, that, and the third. If I don't feel that way, I would just disrespect you in a very vulgar fashion. And why would you want to do that? And I say that because the Lord did it. He disrespected the scribes and Pharisees regularly. Sometimes it's necessary. It's unfortunate, but sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes you have to do that. And keep in point that I said scribes and Pharisees, mockers and scoffers. They ought to be disrespected. You know what I'm saying? You disrespected my God, you disrespected me because you disrespected my father. But again, some of you don't hold your father in that high regard to be offended if someone disrespected him. To have that, I told you, man, my daddy ain't raised me, but I respected my daddy, period. I never disrespected my daddy a day in his life. You know what I'm talking about? Boy, I assisted my brother in changing this man after he done defecated on himself. This man ain't changed no diapers of mine that I can recall as if I could recall them. He didn't do too much of nothing. But that don't change no fact that I come from his loins. I'm of his genetic stock, no matter what he did or what he didn't do. And that's even before knowing the word. He's owed respect. Period. Just on the simple fact because he is my father, he is owed that much respect. I don't care what he did or what he didn't do. It doesn't matter. That doesn't give me a license to disrespect him. See, a lot of us feel because our feelings are hurt that gives you license to disrespect somebody. It does not. It does not. That doesn't give you license to disrespect your father or your mother, grandparents, aunties, uncle, cousins, or a nigga in the street. The reason why I say that because there's things that come along with disrespect. So you better be willing to take what comes along with disrespecting people. Because if you ain't willing to go toe to toe and blow for blow and bullet for bullet, then you better make sure that you carry yourself with the utmost respect to the people who you come across. Because if you conduct yourself like that, that disrespect, be ready to fight. Or matter of fact, be ready to die. Because everybody don't take disrespect the same way. See, when I tell you that I'm going to disrespect a false prophet, a false teacher, a liar, someone from the pits of hell, I know what come along with that. I don't care. I don't care because the word of Elohim is going to stand. And my Savior is going to be lifted up and esteemed in your face. I'm not going to spare your feelings because you want to disrespect him. Since you dis and far be it for me to stand up on his behalf, but I will surely try if he allowed. Nevertheless, Hebrews chapter 12. I want you to come down here, man. I want you to pick it up at verse 12. Hebrews 12 and 12. Wherefore lift up the hands which hang down and the feeble knees, make straight paths for your feet, lest that which is lame be turned out of the way, but let it rather be healed. Follow shalom with all men in Kadashim, without which no man shall see the Lord. Looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of Elohim, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. But you know how that afterwards, when he wouldn't have inherited a blessing, he was rejected. For he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears. Oh no, cuz ain't nothing here for you, man. You can read it for yourself, Genesis 27. You despise the inheritance. You despise New Jerusalem. And you think now, because when you see it being given, that you can cry and get it? Oh no. Oh no. That's not how that works, baby. That's not how that works. We don't do that. Well, they say it's a big deal. Don't do that. Don't do that over here, man. And that don't hurt people's feelings. It hurts people's feelings. I say, man, my granddaddy was hard on me, though, but I ain't going to tell you no lie, though. Well, that man hugged me regularly. That man used to kiss me on my cheek regularly. Young boy. Every time I walk through that door, I can see his face. Now coming through that door in Washington's face. He opened that door. He on the other side of the other, whatever you call that wall of that door, and he'd be like, dude. And the first thing he say, smile on his face. Hug a nigga as soon as I come in the door. Give me a kiss as soon as I come in the door. You know what I'm saying? Did it every day of my childhood, every time I went over there. Every single solitary time. No hesitation. You know what I'm talking about? So when you sit there, you look at that, right? And you look at, and I say that because Yahushua say if you knock, when he knock and you open, he gonna come in. You think that man ain't gonna come give you no hug, man? Man, this man said, come on, man, this man loved John enough, man. This man rested on his chest. Man, ain't nobody said, you got people need to, boy, that nigga gay. Because we so unaccustomed. Them boys ain't thinking like that. Well, he love that man. Man, come here, my nigga. But these men walked up to each other and kissed each other on the cheek. Ain't nobody sitting around to me, oh, nigga, that nigga gay. Only feel that way because you live in a society where, because most were raised by women, you question your own sexuality if you like men or not. You got dudes around here wondering, do I like men? Ain't never been a man day in their life. But sometimes they just wonder. Like sometimes I can say, oh, son, gay. I ain't even talking about in the literal gay of being homosexual. I didn't know that done just corny. That's just a term we used to say when we were just, man, that's gay. Ain't even talking about nothing that's actually gay. Nigga, that done just lame. It's corny. That's just how we talk. You know what I'm saying? But it's this type of thing that when we sit back and look at it, we so unaccustomed that in ancient times and in cultures gone by, that's normal. That's normal. And there was just as many punks back then as there is now. I don't know why people think it's more punks now than it was in ancient times. It was just as many faggots back then, if probably not more. If not more. There's nothing new under the sun. Ain't all of a sudden an explosion of sissies. There's been sissies and bulldaggers out here. And you should know that because Paul writing letters about niggas doing it. They write letters about, boy, these boys around here, man, they around here abusing themselves with mankind, the women burning in their lust for women, these boys sleeping with their parents, man, what they got going on around here? These niggas wilding. And guess what Paul had to tell them people? He said, you want me to come with meekness or with the rod of correction? See, that's the stuff that people look at. Why he ain't saying like, because when you come to correct, what nice way can you correct somebody? Ain't no nice way you can correct nobody. When they don't listen. See, a lot of people don't realize because the nice way is telling you, hey, stop doing this. See, you sit back and you pay attention to Yahuwah and say he was long. How many times did he nicely correct you or he crashed you upside your head because you don't listen? Now you want to come, why you had to do me like that? You had 4 or 5 opportunities to correct yourself. You chose not to. You brought that on yourself. And now you want to play the victim. That's why we mentioned that with Esau. What did he do? He brought that on himself. And now he wants to play the victim. Genesis chapter 27. Genesis chapter, where do we want to begin? Because we're not going to get everything. Let's just get to the point when Esau bring his funky behind back around here. Now, of course, you know the blessing that he gave him. He gave him the dew of heaven, the fatness of the earth, plenty of corn and wine. Say, let people serve you. Nations bow down to you. Lord over your brethren. Let your mother's sons bow down to you. And cursed be everyone that curse you. And blessed be everyone that bless you. Everybody, you got to remember that. Everybody who cursing Yahushua, man, cursing Yahuwah, they damn, yo. It's over for them. It's over for them. They just heaping up coals of fire under judgment. Verse 30 of Genesis 27. And it came to pass as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother had came in from his hunting. He also made savory meat and brought it unto his father and said unto his father, let my father arise and eat of his son Vincent, that your soul may bless me. Isaac his father said unto him, who are you? Remember what he said? Who are you? Who are you? Depart from me. Come on around here, man. Come on, man. Look what Isaac said to him. Who are you? He rejected the birthright. You despise, you contempt. Boy, I do not know you. Who are you? I don't know you, boy. Why is you coming in my house? Why is you knocking on my door? And Matthew chapter 7. 7:22, 21, 7:21. Remember what we was looking at earlier, right? Who was my father? Who's my mother? I mean, my sister, my mother, my brother. Him that do the will. You have inheritance amongst your brethren because you're a wise servant. See, Jacob was a wise servant. Why was he a wise servant? Because Rebekah was the one who was told that the elder will serve the younger. His mother's the one who told him what to do. He said, Mom, I'm going to get a curse on myself. She said, baby, let that curse fall on me. Just do what I told you to do. Wise servant. That's why he was able to rule over a son who caused shame. Because Esau caused shame. Dishonor, a reproach. He caused shame. Why else would Jacob not rule over him? He caused shame. Let's continue. Not everyone that say unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of Shamahim, but he that do the will of my Abba, which is in Shamahim. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, and in your name cast out devils, and in your name done many wonderful works? Then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you that work iniquity. And look what he said back and told Esau, well, who are you? And look what he said, I am your son, your firstborn Esau. What they just said, have we not did this in your name? In your name? You know me. You know me. He like, boy, who are you, boy? I don't know you, boy. Verse 33, Isaac trembled very exceedingly and said, who? Where is he that have taken Vincent and brought it unto me? I have eaten of all before you came and have blessed him. Yea, and he shall be blessed. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great exceeding bitter cry, saying unto his father, bless me, even me also, O my Abba. Oh, it's too late. Remember, you despise your birthright. How can you get a blessing of a birthright you despise? See, that's what a lot of people going to do when Yahushua come in his kingdom. Oh, Lord, save me. Let me in. No, you despise. You forgot? Did you forget you despise your birthright? Because remember, the birthright is the right of the firstborn. He told you to put on Yahushua HaMashiach. He told you that he gave you power to become the sons of Elohim. That means that when you put on Yahushua HaMashiach and you suffer with him, you'll reign with him, which means you would have the right of the firstborn. And you found that with contempt. Oh, let's not talk about that. See, that's what dudes don't sit back and realize. I don't believe in those zombie niggas. But that's fine, son. You an Esau nigga. You despise your birthright. Carry on with your life. Because when Yahusha cracked, that's why dude tell you, man, ain't nobody coming. Believe what you will, sir. But when that man cracked that sky and you go to crying like Esau, looking for repentance, seeking it carefully with tears, there will be no repentance, for you have been rejected because you despise the honor of the firstborn. You despise that inheritance. Therefore, you will not receive it. It is not going to happen. You ain't getting pulled in the wilderness for no opportunity to get it, because you should have had honor and reverence to it before it even went down. See, that's what it said in Hebrews 11 about Moses. Say Moses had respect unto him. Let's look at it real quick on general principle. Just on general principle. Prayerfully, y'all understand all these things. Prayerfully, it's clear to you. If it's not, you just make sure you drop your question where you need to drop it. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 23. I'll read all of it. Ain't gonna hurt nobody. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents because they saw he was a proper child. And they were not afraid of the king's commandments. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of Elohim than enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, esteeming the reproach of Mashiach greater riches than the treasures of Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of reward. See, Esau didn't have respect. He didn't have respect for getting paid back. Let's come back to Genesis 27. Verse 35. And he said, your brother came with subtlety and have taken away your blessing. And he said, is he not rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. He said, have you not reserved a blessing for me? This is a classic victim move. I want you to sit back and think about this in this regards of supplant. You have a Kab here, right? Ayin, Kuf, and Ba. You know the last Adam, because that's to circumvent or to supplant. So when you sit back and look at it, right, he says he has supplanted me these 2 times. And you sit back and you look at it, Yahusha has supplanted the first Adam. He has taken his place. And I just want you to think about that, because that will roll into the next part of this conversation. And we will revisit this verse, who are willing. We will revisit this verse, Yahuwah willing. I just want you to think about that. He said, is he not rightly named, called Jacob? He said he supplanted, he took away my birth. He did not take your birthright, you gave it to him. And you gave it to him because you despised it. That's what it said. But he lied. And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for service, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. What shall I do now unto you, my son? Esau said unto his father, have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also. Oh, my father. Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, your dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven from above, and by your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. And it shall come to pass, when you shall have the dominion, that you shall break his yoke from off your neck. Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. Esau said in his heart, the days of my mourning for my father are at hand, and I will slay my brother Jacob. So when you turn around and you look at it, right, Esau is the scribes and the Pharisees, because they despise Yahusha, and Yahusha is Jacob, because they felt like that he was supplanting them. And therefore they hated him and they sought to slay him. Now the difference is that Esau did not slay Jacob, but they slayed the Lord. And I want y'all to keep that in mind, because who are willing, that point of this matter, we're going to revisit. But I want you to come down here to verse 6, because there's something that y'all willing we're going to read on the morrow here in verse 6. along the lines of what we've been reading with Esau and Jacob. And that's a part of that. And I want you to see this here before we get out of here this evening. Sons, this is Proverbs 17:6. Sons are the crown of old men, and the esteem of sons are their father. I want you to keep that in mind. It says that the esteem of a son, esteem is Tafara, if you will, the beauty, the splendor, the boasting of a son is in his father. Mm. Mm. That's a beautiful thing if you're thinking how you're supposed to be thinking. Listen to it again. Sons are the crown of old men, and the esteem of sons are their fathers. Now, remember what we were discussing earlier, right? A wise servant shall have rule over a son that calls shame, and shall have part of the inheritance among the brethren. I want you to come to Psalms 40, then Hebrews 2. Psalms 40 and 7. Hebrews 2, and probably about verse 8 or 9. Then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book is written of me. I delight to do your will, O Allah, O my Elohim. Yea, your Torah is within my heart. I have preached righteousness in the great congregation. I have not refrained my lips. O Yahuwah, you know, I have not hid your righteousness within my heart. I have declared your faithfulness and your salvation. I have not concealed your loving kindness and your truth from the great congregation. Now, I'm just reading that so you can know, if you didn't know, that this is where this part in Hebrews 2 is coming from, that is about to be mentioned. Hebrews 2 and 8, if you would. Well, I want 2 and 8. 2 and 7 is fine. 2 and 7 is fine. Oh, I was already in this. I ain't even do all of that. Hebrews 2 and 7. You made him a little Lord in Malachim. You crowned him with honor and esteem, and did set him over the work of your hands. You put all things in subjection under his feet, for that he put all in subjection under him. He left nothing that is not put under him. But now we see not yet all things put under him, but we see Yahushua, who was made a little Lord in the Malachim for the suffering of death, crowned with esteem and honor, that he by the grace of Elohim should taste death for every man. For it became him whom are all things, and by whom are all things, and bringing many sons unto esteem, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through suffering. For both he that sanctifieth and they that are sanctified all are one, for which cause he is not ashamed to call them brethren, saying, I will declare your name unto my brethren. In the midst of the house will I sing praise to you. And again I will put my trust in him. And again, behold, I and the sons which Elohim have given me. All of that. All of that. Come over here to Psalm 22. Come over here to Psalm 22. Psalm 22 and 16. All of that, Yah willing, will roll into what we will look at in tomorrow. It'll have a different verse. Verse 6 will be the verse, but that it'll be titled, but it's just a continuation. Think on all of those things. 22 and 15 is fine. My strength is dried up. This is Psalm 22. Like potsherd. My tongue cleaved to my jaws. You have brought me unto the dust of death. Again, this is why Yahushua didn't talk. For dogs have compassed me. The assembly of the wicked have closed me. They have pierced my hands and my feet. I may tell all my bones. They look and stare upon me. They part my garments among them and cast lots upon my vesture. Be not far from me, O Yahuwah, O my strength, haste to help me. Deliver my soul from the sword, my darling from the power of the dog, the Romans. Save me from the lion's mouth, for you have heard me from the horns of the unicorns. I will declare your name unto my brethren. In the midst of the congregation will I praise you. Remember, in John 17, he say, I proclaimed your name, and they have believed that I come out from you, and they have heard your name, and they know it. And then, of course, when he resurrected from the dead, he did the same thing again. And those who are born of the gospel by believing on Yahushua, as the scripture has said, become the sons of Elohim, and therefore his brethren, because they do the will of Elohim. For the will of Elohim is to believe on him whom he has sent. And when this is accomplished, then you will inherit. And this would allow him to inherit with his brethren. Because a wise servant rules over a son who calls shame, which of course he will rule over his enemies. And it will cause him to inherit with his brethren, which of course that is what is going to be accomplished in the end. So remember that, right? A wise servant shall have rule over a son that causes shame and shall have part of inheritance among the brethren. But again, we're going to come back and look at verse 6. Sons are the crown of old men, and the esteem of sons are their fathers. So with that being said, hallelujah for Yahushua and the word. I appreciate y'all time. I bless y'all out of the house of Elohim. Prayerfully, y'all understood everything this evening. Something that anybody understand, you can let that be known, and we can deal with it. If not, we'll move on. I bless y'all out of the house of Elohim in the name of Yahushua. I appreciate your time. Just sit back, wait, and consider, because I know I mentioned a whole lot of stuff in the beginning before we started delving into a lot of verses and things of that nature to set up to be able to get a strong grasp on what I was mentioning, because the mindset that I was discussing earlier is why we have contempt for the birthright, the same way that Esau had contempt for the birthright. We're looking at the lust of the flesh. We feel like we're going to fall out. We're exhausted because we want this, that, and the third. And therefore, you allow your God to be your belly, your mind, earthly things. You end up missing out because you end up despising what is best for you. You know what I'm saying? Everything that's stated is for a rhyme and a reason. It's just not random words. Things just to say. There's a point, underlying level of insight that is going to be imparted. It's being imparted for a reason, because we have to change the way that we think, and that's going to change the way that we behave. The way that we behave is changed. That changes the way that our sons and daughters grow up, which in turn change the way your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and your great-great-grandchildren and so on and so forth. It changes the way that they behave. Because we can't be so short-sighted. See, even with everything they got going on, I told you before, right? Yahuwah is doing things to cause people to sit their behind down and focus on what you need to focus on before things get hectic. So they're gonna have you around here. You're not gonna be able to travel without your vaccination card, unless you're gonna drive all over the place. And then, and the thing was going to drive a lot of people crazy. It's because you can't be entertained. You can't go have fun. There's nothing wrong with wanting to enjoy yourself. But we're living in a time period where if enjoyment and entertainment is in your top 3 of priorities, you have a very serious problem. The reason why you have a serious problem is that there's too many things going on in the earth for us to be really having at the top of the priority list entertainment and fun. That has to be lower, because dark days are ahead. And not dark days in regards of there very well may be famines, and there very well may be wars, but dark days ahead, because the powers of darkness will cause their darkness to be illuminated more boldly on the earth than ever before. And if you have not concentrated and focused and recalibrated your mind, heart, and soul, that darkness very well may envelop and overtake you and cast you down after it has sapped every ounce of your soul out of you until you be destroyed. I said, I'm not saying you can't do that. That's not the point. I'm talking about perspective, because our priorities have to shift. If these people done came up and they come on up with stuff with they want you vaccinated, you got this Israeli dude talking about Trump know there's aliens or all this other type of stuff, and the CIA telling you about this stuff. That means these people finna pull a stunt. Now, what type of stunt they gonna pull? I don't know what they gonna pull. Don't profess to know what they gonna pull. But then, of course, then we know what the words say on those things that have to happen. And the stunts that these people pull to be used way to bring about the things that he say has to happen. And you have to be prepared for that because you got offspring. And again, it's funny. It's not funny. It's just reality. People of a wealthier class spend more time instructing their children than taking their children to be entertained. And poor people spend, or middle or lower class people spend more time entertaining their children than instructing them on things that are pertinent to their success later on in life. And then we look to the higher class and say, why have you not taught my children? And that's when we have to pause ourselves. Why do the people with the most level of resources don't seek to have as much fun as the people with the least level of resources? Why are our mindsets so drastically different? You know what I'm saying? Like, we just sit back and look at that. The person who can take their child to have all the fun in the world would rather take their child and instruct them on things that they could be a productive, successful adult. And the people with the least resources in the world will spend money that they do not have in order to entertain and have fun at the expense of taking those same resources to spend on something that will be beneficial for generations after them. Why? Is it our own thought process? Is it contrived by the society that we dwell in? Why is that the case? I can remember growing up and hearing these white folks say, "Oh, my kids don't watch no TV. Now, we don't even have TV." And I will raise to those same white folks who say they don't let their kids watch TV, probably don't let their kids be on no phones or tablets doing this, that, and the third. So then we have to ask ourselves, why? And we know why, because most of them know the destructive nature of the media that people consume, and they want to shield their children away from that. Now, we're not even talking about it on the level of an educational level, but we know we say we are spiritual people. And I done told y'all this in the past. We have to regulate the level of content that they consume. Or if not, they're just going to be a double-minded version of us. Because you was all the way in, and what you was in, because you ain't know no word, but you trying to get them word with the prevailing content of the culture they're in. They're gonna be double-minded. They're gonna be lukewarm. They're not gonna be hot or cold because they don't have the mental capacity and wherewithal to make the difference between the two. And I'm telling you, you cannot wait. A child, that's not gonna be too late when you wait for them to get older to try to do it. You have to instill it to them first day one. No hesitation, no compromising, no lack of patience, and all that other stuff because you don't want to deal with it. Because you want to have pleasure in your vagina and your penis. That's what comes along with the job. You have a sacred responsibility. And that verse 6 that we read in Proverbs 17, it will illuminate the point of why I'm saying what I'm saying. Because I'm speaking past this prevailing time. This time is just what it is. We're talking about something on a different level to understand how it is in heaven. That prayerfully, if Yahuwah permit, we can manifest that in the earth. But again, I appreciate y'all time, man. Bless y'all, the house of Elohim, in the name of Yahushua. Who are willing, we'll pick it up on tomorrow. Make it do what it do. And until that time, I bid you adieu.